Well, welcome to another edition of the Ask the OT, starring Gina Grothoff, our occupational therapist and my wife. And in these sessions, what we do is we take questions and we help people understand and get the answers to those questions. And if you if you aren't or you don't know the questions right now, but maybe you're starting to see an aging parent or a loved one that is starting to have some cognitive decline or starting to have some issues, and you just want to tell your story, we would love to hear your story. We would love to be able to then help you come up with the questions that you may need to ask and even help you find the answers. Gina's been an occupational therapist for over 30 plus years, working in the senior population. And so she has the professional skills to be able to help people and consult with people in how to handle their aging loved ones. But we also, on a personal sense, we are going through a personal situation with Gina's father, who is in a memory care unit. And so we're learning on a personal level the things that it takes um, to help someone to advocate for a loved one so that you can get the things that um, need to be for the aging parent or the aging loved one. The how to transfer from a hospital to a rehab or back home. Uh, we're getting Gina set up here. She's got to find her headphones. You want to get on? I'm. Did you must have taken them. So she's coming on. Do you want to be joining us here in just a second? And like I say, we are live on YouTube right now, and there is a chat box there that you can put your questions to us at any time during this. I'll be monitoring it, and I'll be able to put the questions to Gina. Um, we are at Focused Healthy Family on YouTube, and you can simply go there and look for the live stream. And like I say, join in for us. If you don't have questions, but you're involved in this, or you have a loved one that you are looking to have to take care of possibly because they're just certain things are not going the way they should be, then come on with us and tell us your story. And like I said, we can help you find the questions that you may need to ask to be able to help your loved one um, transition to this new phase in their life. And I think we've got Gina about ready to come on here so that we can. Oh, yes, there she is. Let's screen that just a tad bit. There you go. Uh,
Okay.
There we are. And so I now present you with our resident occupational therapist, Ms. Gina Grothoff.
So, we have any questions yet, Don?
Not at this point, but I, I kind of I thought about we talked yesterday with the two sisters on that podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about they were two sisters helping to support their father.
Well, they
You
have
know,
a business.
they have a business, yeah. But we talked about, do they do that? Do they do it as a team, or how do they delegate? So maybe we talk a little bit about, how people handle getting people involved, siblings and all of that.
Um,
Kind
there's
of left a
often,
broad question there, but
yeah, there's often one person
that,
that tends to fall on,
and how would you know that, Gina?
I don't know, I've witnessed it many different places. Well, it's like I realized today. Uh, so my parents were in Pennsylvania, which is where I grew up mostly. And my sister moved to Raleigh, I moved to Charlotte, and then they wanted to retire to a lake, and they looked at different lakes, and apparently they even looked at a lake in Pennsylvania, which I was unaware of, but they found one just an hour and a half, 2 hours from where we lived. They bought property. Was how close was it, Don? An hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever. Um, and they started building when I was pregnant with their first grandchild. And then when that got to be too much and they needed simpler, they moved 40 minutes from us. And we moved to Salisbury last October, and now they've moved to Salisbury. And I just like talking to I helped my mom take my dad today to the urologist. And I'm like, you really have been following me around, haven't you, Mom? And I guess that's intentional too. And it just kind of made me chuckle. Because when we moved here, we didn't know we'd be moving them up here so quickly, yet it kind of has worked out that way. And I'm happy to be able to help and support them, as I've told them before. For me, I've been caring for aging people, geriatric population for so many years as a professional working as an occupational therapist. And to be able to use this knowledge and these skills I have to help my dad feels good. Today, we were getting dad out of the car after the urologist appointment. And when you have Parkinson's, you can't get your body to move the way you want it to move. And
And as you see, there's family still going on behind us.
and I had the wheelchair there. Mom was standing next to the chair, but I was, guiding my dad. And this sweet man who lives there at assisted living, he's in a power chair. He came over, he goes, "Can I go in and get a nurse for you guys before someone gets hurt?" And I was like, "Well, thank you for offering." I said, "I actually do this for a living and we're good." And um, it's just it comes easy to me, and yet I have learned that I can burn myself out quickly. I can jump in and do too much. Like it's taken me a while to realize, if he needs to go to the bathroom, I need to let staff do that. Because if I'm jumping in all the time to do all these things, when do I really get to be his daughter? When do I get to visit? Um, and just thinking about the balancing of that is something that I've been working on recently, because initially he was up here for 2 months before my mom moved up. So she's an hour and a half away. She doesn't drive that easily that far. And oh boy, our dog's eating tomatoes apparently. And oh, our dog is eating tomato plants. So we are in the middle of juggling um, the sandwich generation, raising children, no matter what level that is, and caring for aging parents. And we know there are so many other people out there, often somewhere between Generation X and even baby boomers. I meet lots of 90 something year olds and their children who are seniors that are caring for their aging parents. I'm not sure what Don's doing.
I'm just trying to monitor some
The
things and also get
questions.
some messages out to let people know that you're up there. But um,
So, why why consult with me? Why come to me to get some support and assistance? It's a tricky world navigating healthcare system, navigating um, just caring for loved ones, from hiring in-home care, assisted living, skilled nursing facilities, independent living centers, memory care centers, adult daycare centers, something we don't often hear as much about. But these are great places. They are like adult daycare. I like having a place to take a senior to who needs to be supervised, but where there's activities and other events for them. So rather than bringing a caregiver into your home, they get to go out somewhere. There is a great one in I always get Fort Mill and Rock Hill mixed up, Don.
The
South
one that your dad
South
was Rock
Carolina
Hill.
called Renew. That is Montessori based. So when he was able to do this, he'd go there, he'd spend like 6, 7 hours, and they had different activities set up and they had different sections that they could work on. And they brought in exercise classes and they even had it set up where they helped out and planned things. And they helped with cleaning the tables and doing different activities. So it felt purposeful. It was specifically for people with dementia. And there are many different types of centers that offer some care and support like that. And it can help provide a social situation. We were talking with this. We did the interview with the two sisters speak. We got to interview Michelle, and we can share a link to that. And you can see the podcast that is going to air tomorrow,
Yep,
which will be
tomorrow morning.
September 5th.
Basically, you can go to focusedhealthyfamilypodcast.com.
And just talking about the benefits of the senior moving into a community, whether it's an assisted living or going to like an adult daycare center, to be able to connect with other people, to be able to be around other people. Now, that's not for everybody. Um, some people really prefer to stick to themselves and be alone, and yet they might still gain comfort knowing there are people around and there are people there, even if they're not one who wants to socialize and do other things. Yet being involved in activities is the best thing for our brain. Our brains need exercise, just like our arms and legs and our core, all these different muscles that we think about that need exercising, that need working. Our brain deteriorates over time if we're not working it, if we're not using it, actively engaging in something that has some meaning and value to us. Simple things like music and playing bingo, different activities that require some cognitive thought and decision making and just paying attention can really be beneficial to help people maintain, minimize their decline. um, for so many people, there's kind of a natural decline that can happen when they're dealing with either dementia or some other um, in, what's the word? Other conditions, other diseases that have more of a physical presenting um, effect on the body. And so we want to minimize that decline, and staying active and keeping our brains active is important. And so as an occupational therapist, I've worked in a lot of all these settings. I've worked in home health care. I've worked in um, skilled nursing facilities, a rehabilitation hospital, home health, independent living, assisted living, memory care units. And I've helped a lot of families in the work that I do, helping train caregivers to get the support that they need. And as an occupational therapist, I evaluate the person and I assess their function. As an occupational therapist, I'm trained to assess their cognitive function, their physical function, their social function, how they're engaging in their environment. Sometimes goals that I've set up working in a setting is, someone attending activities, someone who, we're concerned about their decline because they're not getting out of their room. They're worried about getting them out, going to activities, a reason to get up and get out of bed and to go somewhere. So from all this experience, I really like people, and I've loved all the different people I've met over the years of doing this. And there's so many different personalities, right? We're all different people. And it's kind of the fun of learning when I meet a new person and finding out where they're from and what their background is, because we all have different interests and backgrounds, different family dynamics. And so there's a nuance there of how to help people. And I've learned most of the time I can kind of figure out a way into connecting with the patient, engaging with them, and because of my experience, kind of be able to get a feel for ways to approach the person because different things work for different people. And you might have two people whose parents have Parkinson's disease and they've got early dementia or whatever with it. And they're both engineers or whatever. But what works for one could be completely different than the other person. And, finding that the resources to get the support, to get the help you need. We share lots of this information here on Ask the OT. We discuss these topics on our podcast. We do interviews with other people to bring you resources, to bring you information. And I really enjoy working with people one-on-one to kind of help guide them through that and give them that support, bring them those resources, but also kind of walk you through it. That's what I love to be able to do for people. So if you know someone who is, no matter where you're at in the stage of things of caring for your loved one, whether it's early stages or they're in the rehab hospital and you're going, oh my gosh, they can't go home now. Now what do we do? Or anywhere along that journey, I'd love to, consult with you and see how I can help support you on the journey.
I'm just keeping an eye on looking for other questions coming through if there are. Um,
This is Ask the OT. We are discussing caring for aging loved ones. I come on here several times a month for a half hour, either usually 7 p.m. Eastern time, or sometimes we do it around noon to answer questions. You can send them to us ahead of time, or you can come on and join us live. You can watch these after the fact and reach out to us. It's an opportunity to come on and ask some questions, get some information or direction or ideas from us, and meet me and find out, could I help you in your journey to
well,
work directly with you and your family?
there's a question here that um, they're asking that the parents have dementia and it's pretty bad, and they're wondering, is it okay to to slowly I'm trying to read it, slowly take things out of the house and change, how to handle that, whether that's a bad thing to do if the parents, they
Slowly take things out of the house with the goal of,
slowly cleaning the house out, getting them prepared to like, it looks like they want to get them into a facility,
oh, okay.
but they're still there at the house, and is they're kind of asking, is it okay to while they're sleeping or while they're not around to be able to remove things because they're saying they probably won't remember it.
Well,
So I
and
don't
it's kind of a neat idea if they have the time to do it gradually.
yeah, yeah.
I'm just going to clean up a little bit, and that's an interesting way to approach it. And I mean, you've got to know your parents, and it sounds like two of them might be both dealing with dementia. That's um,
No, I think it's just one parent.
oh, okay. You said their
See if they.
parents, but
It doesn't say anything, but it sounds like it's just one parent. So maybe the other
knowing
one is
that
gone.
knowing their personality, and are they the type, think about them before dementia. Cat, please don't bite the cord. Um, um, knowing their personality ahead of time, and to me, I would think approaching it as, I was going to help you clean this up, or some people it's better to just go in there and do it and not make a big deal out of
Yeah,
it,
I mean,
right? It's a matter of you got to know that nuance of I mean,
well, I mean, I can remember with my mom, she was able to come. We cleaned the house
well, she
up.
wasn't at home. She
Yeah,
was in the hospital.
no, this was. I think she was already living outside the hospital.
She was in the
Or
assisted living. And so, yeah, that was totally different because she wasn't there at the
yeah,
house and you guys
yeah.
were able to clean it up. But had she still been there, like, how would you guys have been able to approach? Like, would you have been able to go over there, you think, and work on cleaning up an area and how she would have handled that? It's hard to,
I think we could have because she there were a lot of things in that house that she didn't remember were there. I have to make a little confession, but I mean, even when I was living there, there were times I'd get rid of stuff because she tended to be a little bit like her mother. She was
Collecting things and
collecting things and holding on to a lot of stuff, and half the stuff she would never remember she even had.
yeah.
So I would filter some of that out, even when I was still living, or coming up there
Hmm.
a lot, because it was it was taking up a lot of room for her. And
Hmm.
anyway, so I think we probably could have done it, um, but yeah, I don't know.
And, like your mom had lived in the house 50 years, and they talked about that when we did the interview, someone who's lived in a home their whole life.
Mhm.
They've raised their family there. There's a lot of people, and they really hang on and they don't want to leave because that's all they know. And we had the short-term rehab where I work. Someone came in and they're like, yes, they weren't this confused when they were at home. And we talked to the family members about how people with dementia, they learn to cope in their environment. You take them out of that environment, whether it's the hospital or a new place to live, and that dementia can look a whole lot worse because they were coping, they were managing, they were surviving in a very familiar environment and their routine. And you take them out of that, and it's harder for them to function and grasp that. So, understandably so, they want to hold on to that comfort and that familiar.
Hmm.
So, I mean, anytime you can do things gradually, can be a great opportunity.
I think you were right though, as far as you got to know your own parents and what they can deal with, and be respectful of that. Like you said, if they've lived there for 50 years, be respectful in knowing your parents, knowing how they deal with things. How can you be the best respectful to the fact that what's going on for them,
Hmm.
and being in that house a long time, you gotta kind of honor that. And so doing it in a way for your particular parents, how it best respects them, you
Yeah.
know.
And does that look like reminiscing with them? I mean, now we can take pictures of things and store memories in so many different ways, but can you take, a couple hours or a Saturday and hang out with them and go through stuff and just talk about memories and have that experience? Because people need closure, and some people, that might make it easier for them to let go if they've had that time to kind of process and go through their things and look at them and remember and um, decide who's going to get things, or maybe you need to minimize it. For someone with dementia, like you go in there and you're cleaning things up and you get down to like a set number of things. And if they have the ability, you get to pick who gets these things,
Hmm.
giving them some independence. We talked about this all the time with driving, we're taking away independence from someone when we're stepping in and realizing they need care. And that's it can be a little bit humiliating. Um, to be told you're a grown adult, you've lived all this life. What do you mean I'm not safe to drive anymore, right? My dad,
Yeah.
I've been driving longer than most of these people on the road. I'm a better driver than they are, you know, and to be told, okay, you can't do that anymore, or you shouldn't live here now. We yearn for that sense of independence and to do that, and really finding respectful ways to do that, whether that is therapeutic fibbing or being a little sneaky and gradually clearing out some stuff so that it's less overwhelming. Because I know when we moved at the age of, what was I, 54, going through 22 years worth of stuff in our house where we raised three kids, it was overwhelming to sort through those kinds of things. And so, if you're able to go in there, then it might be less overwhelming to them if they are able to participate in it, or, maybe they go visit someone, one family member for a day or half,
Hmm.
and other people jump in and do some cleanup, um, because it's a lot. But finding that respectful balance and finding what because it could be something really small that matters to them. Like there could be certain things they collected and they want to make
Hmm.
sure that those stay in the family.
Yeah, well, that they may have been passed down from their parent and or passed down through generations for that matter. Well, I like that, they bring up the irony part of that in the fact of like the taking the keys away is just one example, but like in our situation, the sandwich, we're about ready to, our child, our youngest is going to turn 16 and we'll be handing the keys to them at some point. And at the same time, we've had to kind of take that driving privilege away from your dad at some time ago, but
Mhm.
there's a bit of irony there. And there, you
So
also,
we've talked a lot about Two Sisters Senior Living Advisors. They have a podcast called Two Sisters Speak, but their website is Two Sisters Senior Living Advisors. They're based in Massachusetts, but they help people find living accommodations, whether that's an assisted living, whether that's bringing caregivers in the home. They help people navigate that. And they do a podcast as well. I've listened to quite a few episodes and really enjoy their take on things. And so we will share that information with you. And again, listen to the podcast that'll be aired tomorrow.
well, their actual website is the number two sisters dash SLA.com. You brought up another thing, and this is something I read. It was a list of things that you don't do with a senior, and you use the word reminisce. And in this list, it said use reminisce and not remember when you're talking to it. Can you address why that would be? Or do you, I don't know if that, I'm kind of catching you off guard with that one, but
Well, okay.
why
What
would you
comes
not
to
use
my
the word?
mind is you've got a parent and they have memory issues. And you see people saying, "Don't you remember? Don't you remember doing this?" And they don't. They don't remember. And then it feels like, oh my God, that doesn't feel good to be like, "Don't you remember, Don, when we did that?"
Hmm.
And how does that feel? Like, why is it that I don't remember those things? And they get defensive versus
Yeah.
reminiscing, like going to a reunion and we're going to reminisce about the good old days. And um,
Well, then the way to do that too is like the albums you've made up for your father and, with his woodworking and all that. So that's one way of reminiscing.
well, and that's another way to preserve things. So my dad did woodworking as a hobby. And years ago, my mom got pictures of them all and have them, you can make up these little photo books now that you send the pictures in, it looks like a book. Um, I guess it's digital now too. And you can do it yourself. But to have that, preserved there. And like he is so proud to show that even now with his advanced dementia, when he's been in different
It kind of lightens
rehabs,
him up now,
he starts talking to people he can tell them about because for him, his past memory is much stronger, which can be true for a lot of types of dementia. Those older long-term memories are more
Mhm.
sealed in there. And just he starts talking about the pieces he made. And we spent so much time doing this that when we moved him into his assisted living, we're going down the hall and there's this it's like a table, a display table. They put snacks on it. And he goes, "Is that one of my tables?" And like anywhere we take him now, is that my and then when we leave the rehab and he goes back to his where he lives, he's like, "Did we get all my tables?" Because it's something he made a lot of tables. Um,
Yeah.
and moving my mom out of their house, and we all divvied up, okay, who's getting what? We wanted to keep his beautiful woodworking stuff in the family. And it's like, all right, who gets this table? Who gets that table? So that's been a great way to preserve that. And maybe they made things that you can't hold on to or you can't keep, or, having an album of it is a way, or a video, or, some way to kind of preserve that.
Well, and this is taking this to a different side of this, but it's also the idea of, and you've always kind of promoted this throughout this whole time period of your dad as he's progressed with his Parkinson's, his dementia, all that, is keeping them busy. If they can do something, allow them to do something. Always try to keep their mind active. I mean, it kind of goes in, uh, even if it's the simplest thing. Like we gave him Connects one time, just to play with, just to kind of mess with. So it's keeping them active and busy as long as possible. I don't know if that it,
Yeah, I mean it's purposeful. The Connects didn't really work with my
no,
dad.
no, but
It didn't work, but like for him, he's a social person. So every time he had a new caregiver, it's like, oh, look at this book together. And you can, talk, he tells them about the things in this book and he's had conversations with people regarding those things. So anybody can create a memory book of any type. This is something, it could be as simple as just a notebook and you write their name down and information about them. And you can, every time people come to visit, you can ask people to put their name, the date,
note,
what they did with them.
fun
Um,
memory, or something.
you can use it as kind of a log, but you can also, um, like I created one for my dad in like a photo album book, and we put pictures when he did different activities and things. In fact, we got him a Polaroid camera, um, which I don't know what became of that, but to put pictures in the book, it was kind of an idea that I came up with my siblings, in part, them pitching in and getting the Polaroid. But and then we've written in it the different activities, and we've got a page that are his therapists that worked with him for a really long time, and some of the caregivers he had while he was still at home. And we're can add to this book, and it can be a way for other people to connect with him and for him to connect with people. um, Even if someone their vision is really impaired, you can be talking about the pictures with the person. Even if a lot of seniors, we got to realize, not only can have hearing problems, but macular degeneration is very common as people age, glaucoma, and there are other eye diseases that can affect vision to the point of being almost legally blind, or where someone really doesn't see clear enough to really look at pictures and identify things. That keeping that in mind, but you can share stories in other ways and describe things and talk about it. And them, they might just enjoy being in the presence of their loved ones, talking to someone about it, even someone with more advanced dementia. We've got to realize that there could be more going on than we realize.
Yeah.
And that could be comforting to them. And, if they enjoyed being around family, that you could still I felt this way when I worked in the brain injury unit. You never know what they're able to hear. You should
Hmm.
talk to them like a person, no matter what.
Yeah.
I did this with my children when they were babies. I didn't baby talk them. I said, I mean, Harrison was an infant, and I'd put him in my carrier, and we'd go on a walk, and be like, "That's a stop sign, and that's a tree," and I just described the world to him. And you can talk and communicate with people, even if you don't think they can understand, because they most likely can understand a little more than we think that they actually can. And
So these ideas that we're coming up with are just some of the ways we help that Gina can help in consulting with you. And not only coming up with these interesting ideas, but also how to how to go from hospital to rehab or hospital back home, or how to move them out of the home and maybe into your home and do assessments. All of that is stuff that can be done through a consult with Gina to help you along, hold your hand, take you along this path because it's a journey.
and some people may think there are no options. I can't afford it. I can't afford anything. I can't, that you might think you have no options, but there are funding sources. There is the Parkinson's Association, which I'm aware of because of my dad. My mom found grants and money that paid for caregivers
Mhm.
for him. And so, there are other organizations out there. There are other resources that exist. And, you know, sometimes it helps to have someone. For me, we were, talking with two sisters and realizing, I can use help too, as much as I know it's my father and I'm enmeshed in it, and I'm still learning so much from other people and getting ideas from others to kind of be able to step out of that box. Because when you're in the middle of it, I mean,
Yeah,
it's a lot.
yeah,
It's a lot caring for, even if you were just like myself, the um being the daughter, helping my mom, who was my dad's primary caregiver for so long, even that is a lot. And now, I'm needing to step in more and
Yeah.
more. There's before I was just a little bit of a support for her. I was,
Yeah.
more of a backup. I was more of a um, extra person so she could go home and nap or deal with something else and but as she's aging and my dad's disease is advancing and it's becoming more complex, it's requiring more of me.
Well, and what I've been thinking about lately too is because we're talking about what are your questions, but maybe you don't even have questions yet. Maybe you're at that stage that just you're starting to notice some subtle changes in your parents or your a loved one that shows some maybe some cognitive decline, and you don't know what to ask. Well, we'd like to hear your story, and we can probably help you
Yeah,
find those
or just, yeah,
questions.
supporting you. And because some people, you might be imagining the worst, or you might, be
Yeah,
thinking, and it might not be as bad as what you're imagining. And you might be talking yourself into a tizzy, not realizing that, okay, this is not necessarily going to look the way I think it's going to look. And no matter what, the journey evolves day by day. And
yeah,
you never know. As much as I have experience with my dad, there's new things that happen all the time. And
yeah.
I've learned new things. I've learned about the bladder, things I didn't know. And
Well, and there's all the new technologies that can help, that can be part of this too. That I think we need to do a whole podcast just on technologies because there's a lot now that are coming out that can help the caregiver plus the person that's going through it that can save time, save patience, all of that. So, well, we want to help you in any way we can. Gina can do consulting.
and,
I help
and I'm sorry, go ahead.
with that. My part of it is helping people with the anxiety part of it, which is a big part of what we've gone through, and we know anybody in that journey dealing with an aging loved one, anxiety tends to be part of that, and we want to be able to help you find ways to be able to escape some of that anxiety.
And get your own stuff out of the way so that you can support
Well, yeah.
someone, right? Because if you've got your own baggage going on, it makes it hard, especially if you got a lifetime relationship with a parent and now you're having to help them. And there can be a lot of, right? I mean, a lot of us have different relationships with our parents that
Resentment,
there's
could be
things.
frustrations or angers that
Mhm.
from the past that you've got to find ways around because if you're the one that they have to count on for help, it makes it very difficult if you're holding a lot of baggage or,
Well, and
you know,
realizing, your own limitations and that it's okay to say no and knowing what is
mm,
going to work for you. But yeah, to use EFT tapping to help yourself get through difficult things and um, we got to take care of ourselves before we can take care of other people. And
yeah,
so that's what Focused Healthy Family has always been about, seeing it as a family dynamic, whether we're helping parents with kids with anxiety disorders or whether we're helping um, fellow people of the sandwich generation or anyone, an older person you're caring for your spouse. You don't have to be sandwich generation to reach out to us and for us to help support you. Um,
and um, oh, I had a thought and it just went right out the door. Uh,
but as you can tell, Don and I like people. We like helping people. I really love working with the senior population. They've become some of my favorite people. I go away on vacation occasionally by myself, and I find myself standing in a pool talking to elderly people or someone who's had back surgery and things. And yeah, it's just a personal passion of mine and helping people find resources and connections and support because sometimes there's little things that can make a big difference.
yeah.
And so I would love to help you.
And if you're listening to this and you like it and you think you know somebody that might be going through this or might need this kind of help, please pass this along
Yes.
and or give them our name and our information, and we'd be happy to talk with them too.
Yeah, send
So
them to the podcast, send us an email, join us on Facebook, Focused Healthy Family. You can follow Instagram as we grow that. But YouTube and anywhere you can listen to a podcast, our podcasts all air both via YouTube and video and anywhere you listen to a podcast
And
audio
that's
version.
every Thursday morning, Eastern Standard Time, 8 o'clock. So again, thank you for joining us today, whether it's after the fact or now. And we look forward to being here for you. And remember, how you speak to your children and your family today shapes their future and yours.
Good night.
Good night.